Hello, my dears, and welcome back. I know, board exams are just around the corner, and things can get a little tense. But please, don't you worry. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most interesting chapters in your entire syllabus, attitude and social cognition. And we're going to make it so simple, you'll never forget it. I promise.
All right, let me ask you something. Why is it that you absolutely love watching the Mumbai Indians play, but you just can't stand Chennai Super Kings, huh? Or why is biryani your all-time favorite food, but just the thought of tinda makes you go, ugh? Well, all these strong feelings, these likes and dislikes, they all boil down to one single powerful concept in psychology: attitude. So let's dive in and figure out what that really means.
So here's our plan for today. It's a simple roadmap. First, we'll see what an attitude even is. Then we'll figure out how they are formed and how they can be changed. After that, we'll look at the interesting difference between our thoughts and our actions. And finally, we'll touch upon the very important topic of prejudice. Stick with me, and you'll have these 5 areas mastered, no problem.
Okay, first things first. What exactly is an attitude? See, it's not just some random opinion you have. In psychology, an attitude is a state of mind. It's a particular way you look at something. And this is the important part, it always has an evaluative feature. That's a fancy way of saying you judge it as either positive, negative, or maybe just neutral. Now listen very carefully, beta. This next part is very, very important for your exams. It's called the ABC model. Every single attitude has these 3 components. Just think of it like a recipe, okay? You need 3 main ingredients to come together to make the final dish, which is your attitude.
So A stands for the affective component. Affective is all about feelings. Simple. It's your emotional reaction. That pure happiness you feel when your favorite cricket team wins a match, that's the affective part of your attitude towards that team. Easy, right?
Next up is B, for the behavioral component. This is about what you do. It's your actions. So if you're a big fan of Virat Kohli and you go out and buy his jersey, that's a behavior. If you feel strongly about protecting the environment and you actually go out to plant a tree, that's your attitude showing up in your actions. And finally, we have C for the cognitive component. This part is all about what's going on in your head, your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas. The belief that hard work leads to success, or the thought that greenery is good for health. These are the cognitions that form the foundation of your attitude. Now let's put it all together with an example right from your textbook. Look at the flow here. It starts with a thought, the cognitive part. Planting trees is good for our planet. This thought then leads to a feeling, the affective part. I feel happy seeing greenery. And that feeling, in turn, drives an action, the behavioral part. I actively participate in tree plantation drives. You see? C, then A, then B. All connected to form one complete attitude.
Okay, so we've got the ABCs down, but where do these attitudes come from in the first place? Are we just born liking some things and disliking others? Well, mostly no. Our attitudes are learned. They come from our experiences in the world. So let's explore how that learning actually happens.
We basically learn our attitudes in a few key ways. We learn by association. Maybe you like psychology because you really like your psychology teacher. Simple. We learn through reward and punishment. If your parents praise you for doing yoga, you'll probably develop a positive attitude towards it. And a huge one today is modeling. Think of all the influencers on Instagram and YouTube. We watch them, we see what they like, and we often adopt those attitudes ourselves. And of course, we also pick up attitudes from our friends, our culture, and all the information we get from the media and books. Now, for a really cool question, are our attitudes permanent? Like, are they set in stone forever, or can they change? Well, the answer is a big yes. They absolutely can change, and psychology has some brilliant theories to explain how this happens.
The first one is called Heider's balance theory. And the main idea is actually quite simple. Our minds love balance and hate inconsistency. It just feels wrong. So look at this triangle. P is you, O is your friend, and X is some topic, let's say dowry. Now you like your friend, right? So the PO connection is positive. And you are against dowry, so your PX connection is negative. But what if your friend supports dowry? Now their OX connection is positive. This creates an imbalance, 2 positives and 1 negative. Our brain finds that very uncomfortable.
So what does your brain do to fix this uncomfortable feeling? It tries to restore the balance.
One way to do that is to change your attitude towards your friend. You might start to think, I don't think I like this person so much after all. So the PO connection becomes negative. And now look, you have two negatives and one positive. And according to this theory, that is a balanced state. Your mind feels much better now. It just wants everything to be consistent.
Here's another really important concept: cognitive dissonance. This is that yucky, stressful feeling you get when you have two thoughts that are clashing with each other, or when what you do doesn't match what you believe. Look at this classic example. Cognition number 1. Pan masala causes fatal cancer. You know this fact. Cognition number 2. I eat pan masala. That's your action. See the problem? These two are in total conflict, and that clash creates that super uncomfortable feeling of dissonance.
This was shown in a famous experiment. Basically, students were made to do a really boring task. Then they were asked to lie to the next person waiting outside and tell them the task was super fun. Now get this, some were paid a lot of money to lie, and some were paid just 100 rupees. And the surprising results? It was the students who were paid only 100 rupees who later said they actually found the task interesting. Why? Because their brain couldn't justify telling a big lie for such a small amount of money. To get rid of that dissonance, that guilty feeling, it was easier to just change their whole attitude about the task itself. They convinced themselves it wasn't a lie after all.
All right, so we know our attitudes can change, but here's the next big question. Does our attitude always predict our behavior? If you believe in something, does it mean you will always act on that belief? Well, let's look at a famous study that put this exact question to the test.
You absolutely must know this study. Back in the 1930s, a professor named LaPiere traveled all across America with a young Chinese couple. Now, at that time, there was a lot of prejudice against Chinese people. But here's the crazy part. Out of 250 hotels and restaurants they visited, they were refused service only one time. That was their behavior. But later, LaPiere wrote letters to all those same places and asked, would you serve Chinese customers? And guess what? Over 90% wrote back saying no. That was their attitude.
So what does this tell us? It shows there can be a huge gap between what people say they believe and what they actually do. The big takeaway here is that our attitude does not always predict our behavior. Sometimes other things, like the social pressure of a face-to-face situation, can be much more powerful than a belief that someone holds in private.
Now, attitudes can be positive, right? Like loving your favorite team. But they can also be negative. And when a negative attitude is aimed at an entire group of people, we get into the very serious and very important topic of prejudice.
Let's use our ABC model again to understand this. Prejudice is an attitude, and it's usually negative. The C, the cognitive part, is the stereotype. That's the oversimplified belief you have about a group. For instance, a thought like, all people from that place are lazy. The A, the affective part, is the feeling of dislike or even hatred. And all of this can lead to B, the behavioral part, which is discrimination, actually treating people from that group unfairly.
So, where does this horrible thing called prejudice come from? Well, it can be learned from family or from what we see in the media. It often comes from a very strong sense of us versus them. Sometimes it's from scapegoating, when a powerful group blames a minority group for all its problems. And sometimes, sadly, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the targeted group hears the stereotypes so often that they start to believe them and act in ways that seem to confirm them.
Okay, let's take a quick pause. Here is a typical 3-mark question you might see on your exam paper. Explain the ABC components of attitude with a suitable example. Based on everything we've just talked about, how would you answer this? You can use the green environment example we discussed, or even better, try to create your own. This is really good practice for you.
And that, my dears, brings us to the end of our super quick explainer. I really hope this has made the chapter a lot clearer and simpler for you. Just remember the ABC model, remember the theories of how attitudes can change, and remember the difference between attitude and behavior. Revise it once more and you will be absolutely ready. All the very best for your exams. You are going to do wonderfully. Tension Elena, you've got this.